Sugar Talk with Dr. KG and Lucas, brought to you by Diabetes Endocrinology Consultants, and Dr. Lucas is in the house. Good morning, doctor. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great.
All right. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about clinical research.
Is that why you have guinea pigs in the studio?
Yes, they're going to have a role in that. This is Jasmine and Jake. Jasmine and Jake.
Okay.
They've come to visit us.
Okay.
They're sitting very quietly here for now. They've been well fed.
All right. Well,
we'll get to the guinea pig relevance later.
But. All right. So, clinical research again. Why do you do that, and why should people be involved in it?
Well, we do it basically because it's very interesting. You get new drugs before they come out, and they're free. So that's always good to have free drugs. But people with diabetes want to have their diabetes controlled. And one way of doing it is to be involved in a clinical research study so that you're forced to check your blood sugar and come pretty often. You get more attention, your diabetes gets better controlled, whether you're on the real drug or not. So a lot of people with diabetes do well in a study. In fact, some of our patients, they put me back in a study because I did better, but sometimes their sugar gets too good to be in another study. But you have to wait a while.
The accountability, though, is
accountability is good, and they're seen more often. They get their supplies free from the study, so the finger stick blood sugar strips, you can get those, and you get lab tests for free and things. A lot of people with insurance don't need that, but people without insurance, it helps them check on other things such as their cholesterol and their liver test and kidney test. So seeing the doctor is not charged at all. The company sponsoring the research study does that. So it's a good way of getting your diabetes under control. It also means that you contribute more knowledge for the new medicines for the future.
So it's an altruistic endeavor as well.
Altruistic, that you actually help somebody else in the future with these drugs. A lot of the drugs we've studied are already on the market, so it's very very rewarding to see some drug that you really thought did well in a study, even though you don't necessarily know who's on it. Sometimes you suspect who's on it because their blood sugars just do very well. So it's good to see new things and new opportunities for people to get their blood sugar controlled.
You've been doing this long enough to see a lot of these advances, right?
Yeah, we've done it for 25 years, so that's a lot. But a lot of the drugs are out. Some drugs didn't make it for various reasons. I mean, you never know all the data until they finally come out, because we're only one of many sites doing the study, sponsored by the pharmaceutical company that's making the medication.
Are you often doing studies for drugs that are already approved, but that you're studying whether or not they could be indicated for something else?
Yes, and we have some studies like that. Some of the type 2 medications, they're trying to get approved for type 1 diabetes. Type 1 are the insulin-dependent people. So there's drugs that are available now that are already approved for type 2, such as Invokana, Farxiga, Jardiance are the ones that pull sugar out of your body, and they're trying to get those approved for type 1. So it's a very interesting situation, because type 1's usually, you have to be on insulin, that's it. That's the only thing that's going to work. But these drugs tend to work very well, pulling extra sugar out, so the sugar doesn't go up and down as much. So we have 2 of those studies starting this month. And we have type 2 studies, which are new drugs. There's also drugs that want to be in a combination with each other that are already approved, that all they're trying to do is check the combination compared to something else. So those are pretty easy to recruit for, because there's nothing new or different. They're already approved.
Okay. Again, and the types of folks who join, I mean, I imagine you have certain parameters you're looking for with each study.
Usually they want somebody that's their blood sugar is not as well controlled as it should be. Usually the A1C has to be 7.5. So if they're too good for a study, then that's good. That's good for them. They don't need another medicine. They're doing really well, and that's what we tell people. If they come and their A1C is really well controlled, they don't qualify because their sugar is well controlled. We also have some studies that are for people that have had heart attacks, because all diabetes drugs now have to do a long-term study to make sure that they don't contribute to any kind of heart disease. So that's why you're hearing a lot of things about this drug doesn't contribute to heart disease, or this because of all the lawsuits in the past for diabetes drugs and heart disease. So I think that's a good idea to do. And that lets you be on that medication for 5 or 6 years and being in that same study for 5 or 6 years is actually very helpful for some people.
Is that unusual for a study to last that long?
Yeah, usually studies last 6 months to 12 months, but the long-term studies want to look for a certain number. They have to count the number of heart attacks and compare it with the people that got the drug versus the people that didn't get the drug. So they're having to do that with every single diabetes drug and with weight loss drugs too. Have to do that.
When you're doing a study here, are there other places that are also doing the same study?
Oh yeah, there could be hundreds of sites. It depends on the type of study it is and how many people they need. For the long-term studies, they need a lot of people. So there might be 100 or 200 sites all over the country and in the world doing it, because it's pretty much a global study a lot of times.
Does geography or culture play a variable in any of those studies, or you just need the people?
Yeah, they like to have representation from all groups. So Hispanic groups, Black groups, they like to have a representation of the population.
Right. Okay. Well, now let's get to the guinea pigs. Why are there guinea pigs?
Why are there guinea pigs? Okay, so that's...
By the way, they're very, very quiet.
That's Jake. And that's Jasmine, and they're glad to be on the show.
You can go and see the video on the Diabetes and Endocrinology Consultants YouTube channel. And
yes, they're very sedate.
And
they have not exercised. They're getting a little overweight there. The reason is that clinical research, as defined, involves people. So before you get involved in the clinical research part, you have had animal research. So stages of research would be having an idea about a medication. A lot of medications are tailored down to a specific receptor or a specific part of the cell that they want to do, and so they have sort of designer drugs that actually do that. So you have to have an idea first. They do animal testing first. That's where the guinea pigs come in. Although I'm not sure guinea pigs are used much. I mean, they mostly use rats because nobody really cares if you experiment about rats. But that's the phrase that people use. I don't want to be a guinea pig. Well, you're not going to be a guinea pig because it's already been tested in animals, and the clinical research part is only humans. And there's different phases of human testing. So phase 1 is just safety studies. So they get people that don't even have a disease. And they give them medications just to make sure they don't get sick with it, which we don't do that. We don't give it to people that don't need it. Phase 2 is to determine the correct dose. So they'll have a medicine they use for diabetes. They'll have diabetic patients, but they don't know exactly the best dose to give. The dose with the least side effects, with the most lowering of the blood sugar. So that's what phase 2 is. And phase 3, we do mostly phase 2 and 3. So 3 is to see if it's effective at that dose over a larger group of people. So phase 2 is a smaller group. Phase 3 is a larger number of people, maybe 500 people to 1,000 people are on the drug, to see if it's effective, to compare the A1C, which is the average blood sugar, see if it lowers more in the study group than in the placebo group.
Okay. And now, how many will you have in a study?
Well, it's ranged from 5 people to 120 people. Just the weight loss study did the best because everybody wanted to be in a weight loss study.
That's right.
And that's done real well. That was a long-term study also. But it just depends on the study and how easy it is to get people in, because they have a lot of rules for people to get in.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about that and how you might sign up for one as well, too. We'll see what's coming up. With Diabetes and Endocrinology Consultants, you can find them online at beachdoctor.com. That's beachdoctor.com. Welcome back here on Coastal Daybreak here on the Talk Station, FM 107 at AM 1240. And we are in the middle of Sugar Talk with Dr. K.G. Lucas of Diabetes and Endocrinology Consultants online at beachdoctor.com. Talking about her guinea pigs and guinea pigs for subject matter as well as the ones in the studio. When you do you have ongoing studies pretty much all the time, or is there a season for studies?
Pretty much all the time. I think usually it's hard to start studies around Christmas, but it's real easy to start studies in January when everybody turns over weight loss studies, turns over new leaves. So if you think you might be interested in a study, just call our office, and we have an online questionnaire to fill out about the studies, and we'll get back to you. A lot of people don't exactly fit into a study, and we sort of see over time what they might be able to do. But the reason to participate would be just being seen more often. People with
Yeah,
diabetes
sure.
do better.
Yeah.
They've done studies with the number of times people check their blood sugar equals better control, and the number of times they see the doctor, which is interesting. The number of times you actually see a healthcare professional is correlated with your blood sugar control also. So this way you get to see a healthcare professional, you get to check your blood sugar more often, and you get your diabetes better controlled.
So people might be control their diabetes, control their sugar better when they're getting ready to go see the doctor.
Yes,
It's
I think.
like cleaning
Well,
up
they
the
have to
toenail.
check. They have to check their blood sugar because they might get kicked out of the study if they don't check it so many times.
Right.
So they're forced to do it,
Mhm.
and they're forced to observe things. They're supposed to keep a little diary of any kind of symptoms they have during the study. So it makes them more aware of what they're doing.
Sure. And again, if you want to find out more about it, you can go online at beachdoctor.com. As Dr. Lucas says, there's an online questionnaire for you there. Beachdoctor.com, you can find out more about new research studies or ongoing ones, and contact the folks at Diabetes and Endocrinology Consultants. And we'll see you next week.